Hello and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. I'm Aaron Porras, here with ILTV's morning briefing.
The I.D.F. has just halted what could have been a potentially deadly terror attack on Jewish homes in the West Bank. 2 Palestinian suspects were busted attempting to sneak into the Itamar community wearing what appeared to be IDF-style uniforms. One suspect was immediately detained at the scene, while the other managed to flee to the nearby Palestinian village of Beit Furik. The army conducted a thorough search of the area and discovered a small cache of homemade Molotov cocktails as well. The army is continuing to investigate whether or not the suspects indeed planned to carry out a terror attack. The suspect who was arrested didn't have a weapon on him at the time, though he was carrying a pair of binoculars. Security forces have just made an arrest in a similar incident near the Jewish West Bank community of Efrat. Cameras caught a Palestinian man making suspicious movements on the outskirts of one of the neighborhoods. Counter-terror units and army patrol quickly apprehended the suspect, who attempted to escape once he realized he'd been spotted. The suspect has been arrested and transferred to the Shin Bet for interrogation. Germany's president has just met face-to-face with the King of Jordan to discuss the obstacles for Middle East peace. King Abdullah II of Jordan has reaffirmed the need for a Palestinian state with a capital in East Jerusalem, a need that German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier seems to back up, countering President Trump's bombshell Jerusalem recognition last month. Though Jordan is a major American ally in the Middle East, King Abdullah II has been wary of backing the United States' new policy shift regarding the Palestinians. Most recently, during the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland this week, he said that if the United States has indeed taken Jerusalem off the table, then Israel must be prepared to make, quote, a significant concession, end quote, to the Palestinians in exchange. A few days later, his message to Germany's president is a bit different, rallying now for a Palestinian capital in East Jerusalem. Germany, who is also a critical financier and ally of Jordan, remains adamant that a two-state solution is the only course of action. President Steinmeier himself has expressed significant doubts over whether or not Trump's controversial Jerusalem announcement actually helps that plan or harms it. Just a few days prior to his meeting with German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier, Jordanian King Abdullah II has reportedly given, quote, disturbing news to Lebanese Prime Minister Saad Hariri. According to reports, Abdullah was giving a stern warning regarding the consequences of United States President Trump's Middle East policies. He reportedly told Hariri that, contrary to public opinion, Trump does have a deal, that deal is akin to a speeding car without brakes, and that President Abbas will have little to no choice but to take it. The allegedly proposed U.S. peace initiative has apparently been shared with Saudi Arabia as well, in an attempt to get Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas to get back to the negotiating table. But the details of the plan, coupled with the recent U.S. actions against Palestinian organizations like UNRWA, is keeping Abbas away. Unfortunately for the Palestinian refugees that Jordan and Lebanon host, however, according to Abdullah, the U.S. cannot possibly be removed from the peace negotiations anymore. Further, though he describes Trump's alleged plan as being nearly completely one-sided with a preference to Israeli desires, he also said, quote, we have to give the Americans the benefit of the doubt and all work together to make sure that we help the Americans, Israelis, and Palestinians to come together, end quote. As for the refugees in Lebanon and Jordan, Abdullah said that in Trump's plan, the right of return will not be afforded to Palestinians, and therefore the two countries must come up with a realistic solution ASAP before the refugee crisis threatens their very existence. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu is now en route to Moscow this morning for meetings with Russian President Vladimir Putin, as well as for a visit to an exhibition on the Holocaust. Netanyahu and Putin are set to discuss Iranian encroachment in Syria and Lebanon, as well as the JCPOA nuclear deal and much more. This trip also comes just a day after the Israeli leader left the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, where he discussed many of the same topics with other world leaders. Netanyahu and Putin have been in close contact for several years now, primarily to ensure that there are no crossfire issues between the two countries in Syria. According to statements made by Netanyahu earlier this month, he apparently went to Putin personally after Russian forces began to settle in Syria. He then supposedly said, quote, look, you have your interests in Syria and we have our interest, which is not to be attacked by Iran and its proxies from the soil of Syria, either directly or through the provisions of offensive weapons, very deadly weapons that are filtered through Syria into Lebanon to a war front that Iran is building in Lebanon, end quote. He continued to say that the most important thing, however, is to make sure that we, quote, understand each other and that we don't shoot each other's planes down. The deconfliction mechanism, as Netanyahu called it, has been in effect for some time now and thankfully, quote, holds secure. What remains on the topic of Iran, though, remains to be seen until after the leaders finally meet again today. The 60th annual Grammy Awards are now over, but people are still buzzing about the 2 posthumous awards handed out to Jewish cultural icons Carrie Fisher and Leonard Cohen. Fisher, who is best known for her role as Princess Leia in the Star Wars franchise, made a massive impact in Hollywood over her 40-year career, but was rarely nominated for awards prior to her sudden and tragic death last December at the age of 60. At least until last night, when she was finally awarded the Grammy for Best Spoken Word Album for her memoir and connected audiobook, The Princess Diarist. As for Leonard Cohen, who passed away at 82 years old this past November, he was awarded his first Grammy as well for Best Rock Performance on his latest single, You Want It Darker. The Canadian poet, singer, songwriter has remained a popular cultural symbol for many years, having even earned a Lifetime Achievement Award in 2010. But like Fisher, he had few major public hits in the traditional sense. The album, quote, You Want It Darker, which includes the title song by the same name, came out just 3 weeks prior to his death. The song, which is marked by steady and deep bass lines and beautiful imagery in the lyrics, also includes Hebrew and background vocals by the Shar HaShamayim Synagogue Choir from Cohen's native Montreal.
That's all for now. I'm Aaron Porras, and see you later with our main daily broadcast from Israel at 2 p.m. Eastern Time.